I want to take a look at this clip, and it's relatively early in the movie, but Clark, and it's interesting how they show things, because in the scene, the bus goes over the bridge, but immediately before that, one of the kids is all up in Clark's face, calling him names, doing all this stuff. Bus goes over the bridge into the water, and now Clark has a decision. I can rescue them. Should I do that? He makes the choice to push the bus out of the water, to go back in, to save the bully. And it freaks out this kid, because he's like, I know I saw Clark do that. It was a miracle. It's an act of God, all this stuff, because what they saw didn't make sense. And so Jonathan Kent, Kevin Costner's voice here, goes out to speak to young Clark about this idea of knowing when it's your time and why you need to wait.
I just wanted to help.
I know you did, but we talked about this. Right? Right? We talked about this. You have... Oh, Clark, you have to keep this side of yourself a secret.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe. There's more at stake here than just our lives, Clark, or the lives of those around us. When the world finds out what you can do, it's going to change everything. Our beliefs, our notions of what it means to be human, everything. You saw how Pete's mom reacted, right? She was scared, Clark.
Why?
People are afraid of what they don't understand.
Is she right? Did God do this to me? Tell me.
We found you in this. We were sure the government was going to show up at our doorstep, but no one ever came. This was in the chamber with you. I took it to a metallurgist at Kansas State. He said whatever it was made from didn't even exist on the periodic table. That's another way of saying that it's not from this world, Clark. And neither are you. You're the answer, son. You're the answer to are we alone in the universe?
I don't want to be.
And I don't blame you, son. It'd be a huge burden for anyone to bear. But you're not just anyone, Clark, and I have to believe that you were sent here for a reason. All these changes that you're going through, one day you're going to think of them as a blessing, and when that day comes, you're going to have to make a choice. A choice of whether to stand proud in front of the human race or not.
Can I just keep pretending I'm your son?
You are my son. But somewhere out there, you have another father, too, who gave you another name. And he sent you here for a reason, Clark. And even if it takes you the rest of your life, you owe it to yourself to find out what that reason is.
I think we could pretty much talk the rest of the time just on that one clip.
Good Lord. I got teary-eyed when I watched that scene when he says, "You are my son."
Yeah.
Look, man, I mean,
that.
Mothers and fathers are supposed to work together for this. And this movie shows it brilliantly. And I know we live in an age where we want to say there's no difference between men and women. And, we get all sort of like gender neutral and whatever. Like, okay, believe what you want, but this movie reveals why we need a mother and a father, why God designed it this way. It's biologically designed this way. Like, this is God's design. This was before the fall. This was designed, right? And what does Jonathan and Jor-El, what do they both teach him? They teach him self-sacrifice. This is utterly important. As a father, one of the main things you teach is self-sacrifice. They watch you sacrifice yourself for the love of others. They see you do it. And that's that whole scene with the tornado. That's why that scene's there. If Clark doesn't see this, then he can't, then he will make his power about himself. But when he sees, no, being a man means self-sacrifice. That's what being a man is. And he sees it in Jor-El too, right? He sees truth, standing up for what's right and good. And here in that conversation, the father says, you have an identity. You are my son. And we could watch it, but listen back through it. How many times does he say son in that conversation? I don't blame you, son. He just keeps calling him son, son, son. And then purpose. You get an identity from your father and you get a purpose from your father. That's what you get from your father. That's your father's role. That's your job. Your job as a father isn't simply to provide money. Although you should. I mean, like, you don't want your kids to starve, like, you know, right? But those are the elements that true manhood brings to the table. You stand for truth. You stand for what's right and good, right? And you have identity, you have purpose, and you see self-sacrifice. What do Martha and Lois teach him? This is important. They teach him gentleness. They teach him patience, endurance, compassion, and a different kind of strength that's not physical. They teach him a different strength that isn't physical. And they aren't in competition to each other. They're supposed to go together. In sex, you come together and become one. Like the mother and the father are supposed to work in conjunction with one another to bring a real human to the surface, to bring a true human to bear upon the world. Because you're not just sending a lawyer or a doctor. That's not who you're sending out into the world. You're sending a different human being out into the world for them to realize their calling. And if you don't give them this, now other people can, right? Like he's an adoptive father. Like I've had mentors help me with this, both male and female, besides my own parents who did a great job. But I've had mentors in the church do this. And this is part of what Clark has to learn, to be different than Zod and to be the person he was called to be. And you can talk after, we don't have to go there now, and to accept the power of solitude. He has to understand both of those things, because if you don't understand self-sacrifice, you don't understand solitude. You don't get it. You don't get it. And so, and compassion and patience. If you don't understand these things in conjunction with one another, then you will not accept the solitude it takes to develop your gift. Period.